Welcome to another edition of the Gratitude Podcast. I'm excited to be here once again today to kind of continue our journey that I started a couple of sessions ago into what I'm calling my 4 quadrants of rad mastery. I just made that up. I don't know what I'm calling it. But anyway, last week we spoke about kind of using my little flip chart here. We talked about health set, heart set, mindset, and soul set. And I wanted to continue on there and talk about the gene keys, but I'm going to divert a little bit because I'm involved with the Venus sequence of the gene keys. And just quickly on the gene keys, I think it's just brilliant. It comes from the ancient Chinese process of I Ching or I Ching. And a guy named Richard Rudd created something called the gene keys, which I had heard about probably 10 plus years ago, didn't think much of it, heard about it 5 years ago, 3 years ago, and then 1 year ago, all of a sudden, I was ready for it. It resonated for me for kind of an interesting series of outcomes, but I decided to check it out and see what it was all about. And, it's kind of hard to start because it's one of those where you get a profile, a hologenetic profile that's based on your birth time, birth date, and birth location. And so right away, I'm kind of like resistant to that, going like, it's another astrology kind of thing that I don't believe that someone creates that. But I must have been in a playful mood that particular day, and I did it, and I started kind of looking at it. And what caught my eye was that it wasn't this is who you are kind of thing. It was more what Richard describes as a mirror to take a look at and follow a process of contemplation. He describes contemplation as the middle way between meditation and concentration. And I started thinking about that because I've tried to meditate because all my coach, my therapist, my catalyst, my guide all say, I need to meditate. And so I've tried to do that and I just haven't been able to. I could do guided meditations, although I fall asleep a lot on those too. And I think I can concentrate. But in the gene keys, it's all about contemplation, which is thinking, which I'm doing that kind of all the time anyway. So I go, okay, well, I could do this. And Richard describes the gene keys as there are 64 different gene keys. And your hologenetic profile has, at least right now, there's a new sequence coming, but there's an activation sequence that has 4 gene keys in it. And then there's a Venus sequence that has 6 gene keys in it. And then there's a Pearl sequence that has, I think 5 gene keys in it. And there's some overlaps. But the activation sequence, that's your genius sequence. That's your foundation. That's how you start. And it consists of your life's work, your evolution, your radiance, and then your purpose in life. So it's really kind of good to do. But the contemplation process is something that they recommend that you think about, you contemplate on each gene key for a month at a time. So it's not something that you do real quick. And I'm used to doing things really quick, but this is something that slow down. In fact, Richard says, in order to speed up, you've got to slow down. So I took a leap of faith and said, okay, I'm going to do that. So I looked at my gene key for my life's work. That's the first one to look at in the golden path. It's called if you do all 3 sequences. So life works is a good place to start. And so based on your birth time, your birth location, your birth date, you get a profile, hologenic profile. And each of the gene keys consist of 3 things: a shadow, a gift, and a siddhi, spelled Siddhi. And it's kind of a higher level. It's a Swahili or some kind of a word for that there's no translation in English. But it's kind of really interesting. And mine was, I think, gene key 54, 53. But the shadow was greed. The gift was aspiration. And so I started thinking about that, going, I'm going to contemplate this for a month because I'm going to try the process and see what happens. And it was fascinating because at first I thought about greed as in greed and money. I go, I don't think I'm that greedy. I give away, I contribute, I do a lot of things. I don't consider myself greedy. But then I started expanding because the more you contemplate, the more you have new insights. And I did. And I found that I am greedy in some different ways that I hadn't thought of before. And it took me to some interesting contemplations. So anyway, I went through that. I went through my life's work and then my evolution, where the shadow was immaturity. And the siddhi there was superabundance. And then I went over to my radiance, and I think my shadow there was unsureness, and the siddhi was clarity. And then I went to my purpose, the fourth one in the activation sequence, and my shadow was agitation. My gift was intuition, and the siddhi was awakening. So I thought that's pretty cool for my purpose. But where I'm at right now, what I want to talk about was the next sequence, which is called the Venus sequence. And the Venus sequence is around love. And so I started thinking about that. I want to do the Venus sequence. And they say it's really tough because you're going to go really deep in this sequence. And I'm only in the first month. And I started thinking about the Venus sequence, which starts again with the ending gene key from the activation sequence, which is your purpose. But you look at it in a totally different way. Agitation is my shadow. And one of the things I found is I get agitated quite a bit. And I call them triggers now. But in relationship, I get agitated a lot. And I actually get agitated a lot in other areas of life that I never really noticed. And so it's really interesting because as you contemplate things, you'll find and discover, I didn't think I was very agitated. I thought I'm pretty mellow, easygoing kind of guy. You know, where I'm the most agitated, it's so interesting, is driving my car. I had no idea. I just kind of go through life driving a car. You don't really think about it. Now I'm thinking about it because I'm contemplating. I get agitated all the time. If people are driving too slow or too fast, or they don't stop at a stop sign, they do a California roll, or if they won't turn right when I want to go right and they're stopped in front of me, or anything, it turns out I get agitated all the time. And that's probably not a really good thing. And I also get agitated in relationship. I get triggered all the time. And it's interesting to think about how much we're agitated in life, or whatever your shadow happens to be. And the more you think about your shadow, the more you can unlock your gift. But it's the first gene key in the Venus sequence. This is the love sequence. And one of the things that I'm wanting to do in life is get good at relationships, and particularly in intimate relationships. When I first was a young man and got married, I don't think I knew anything about relationships. And I paid the price. There were consequences for not knowing things. And over time, over years, it turns out I've gone to and studied a lot of relationship things and have a long way to go still. And I think many people are this way if you start really thinking about it. So I think maybe, if this is true or not, but this is what I'm remembering right now, that my very first Tony Robbins event was Date with Destiny. It was in 2014, December. So it's almost exactly 10 years ago. It's an 8-day event. It was held in Florida live. It was the event that was actually filmed for his Netflix movie, I'm Not Your Guru, which, by the way, I'm in the movie 3 times. So it was pretty cool. That was my first event. But on day, I think 5 or so was relationship day, 4 or 5. And I never heard about relationship kind of stuff. But we spent a whole day kind of learning about relationship things. And I started listening and going like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I've never really even thought about any of those kinds of things. And since that day, I've thought a lot about relationships. I've had a lot of relationships that haven't gone the way I had hoped them to go. And I continue to grow in that area. So for people that are listening, if you've got a great relationship, man, I'm so excited for you and love that you do. But if you don't, and you've never really thought about or wanted to work it, I'm suggesting you do, because we're not taught how to be in relationship. We see our parents, and in general, I'd say most parents weren't great role models for relationships. I don't know if that's true for you or not. And even our friends' parents, they weren't very good in relationship. And if you think about a lot of your friends, I don't know too many people that have great relationships. Now, I do know a few, and I've asked them questions about what the secret is, and they all have different kinds of answers. So I guess Tony Robbins started my first kind of foray into what makes a great relationship. In fact, I after a couple of years, I joined his Platinum Partners, and one of his signature events for Platinum Partners is Relationship Week. He only does it every 2 years. It's a week long, and I went to that. I learned so much in that week. It was unbelievable, including other resources of people to study that I hadn't heard of, or maybe I had, but the way Tony teaches it just brought it fully to life. And since that time, I've done so many different kind of relationships. Allison Armstrong, David Data, John Wineland, and on and on. In February, I'm going to a soulmate tantra relationship week-long workshop in Bali, which is actually the first of 7 week-long sessions over a 3.5-year period. I'm serious about learning about relationships, and I'm willing to and wanting to invest in myself in order to figure this out. Because as Tony often says, that if you want a spiritual journey, be in relationship. And I think that's what I'm doing right now. I'm in a spiritual journey. The Venus sequence is part of the Gene Keys. I think is an amazing process that over the next 6 months, because there's 6 Gene Keys, over the next 6 months, I'll be studying with my partner right now these particular gene key sequences, one G key at a time. And pretty much every day I'm doing work on contemplating around this and taking a pause from life. That's one of the things that Richard Rudd suggests, is taking a pause and just putting yourself back into the alpha state and just allowing yourself to contemplate what is your shadow, what is your gift, what is your siddhi in each particular area of your life. So in my purpose in life, I'm figuring it out, and I'm just a week into it, and already amazing insights have been happening. And I have to guard myself to make sure I'm not focused on the relationship, but I'm focusing on the relationship I have with myself. And I think that's something that's really important that we each should and could be doing. But on my morning run this today, I was thinking of actually offering, along with my partner, a relationship week in Tuscany this summer. We are thinking about going to Tuscany after Florida for 2 or 3 months to write books and just contemplate and plan for life and enjoy life, and plan to rent a small little villa with some extra rooms. And so if you have any interest in coming to a week-long relationship week, reach out to me. We're going to possibly call it something like Neurotantra. So since I teach neuroscience and my partner teaches Tantra, we're going to combine the two, and I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity to build a relationship. Okay, aside from that commercial, I apologize for that. That just kind of popped into my head. But what I want to do is just encourage you to think about whatever relationship, whether you're in a relationship or not in a relationship. We're always in relationship with people all around us, right? We always get triggered with people around us, and we always think it's the other person, but it's never, again, Richard Rudd was talking about this. I really got into the law of attraction and Abraham Hicks last year, which, by the way, if you want to learn some really cool stuff about relationships, go to YouTube and just in the search, put in Abraham Hicks relationships. And there's so many great audio videos. They're only like 15 minutes each. And in fact, there's a 60 program playlist. If you just hit that, it just goes through 60 different sessions. I've listened to all those multiple times. And I keep getting great insights. Whether you believe in channeling or not, doesn't matter. I don't know that I do, except that the messages are amazing. And so if you're looking to improve yourself in the area of relationships, I highly, highly recommend that. But coming back to what Richard said is that, yes, the law of attraction is real. And some people go, oh, I'm trying to attract things, but I'm not attracting it. Why? And it's because what Richard points out is there's another universal law that takes precedent over the law of attraction. And that's the law of, I don't know what he calls it, universal need. But it's that the universe or God or source or whatever you believe in spiritually always gives you what you need in life. Not what you want, but what you need in life to grow, to advance, to evolve, to morph into whatever it is that you're destined to do in this lifetime, or have the opportunity to learn and grow from in this lifetime. And so, we all have ups and downs in life. And when it's up, it's great. And when it's down, it sucks. But changing that language from it sucks to, oh, this is so cool. What am I going to learn? How am I going to grow? Where is this taking me? And be excited about it. That, to me, would be a really cool thing to do. And that's where I am in this Venus sequence, because it is challenging. It is tough. And it's going to take, as Richard described, it's going to take you to your knees. And I think I might have been there a couple of times already. And what a journey, though. What a journey life is. And so this is a short little podcast where I just want to perhaps act as a catalyst for you to take the leap and think about your relationship or relationships, and open your mind, open your eyes, open your ears, open your feels to what's coming into my life that's allowing me to grow in this relationship area, whether it's a relationship itself or whether it's a process. Abraham Hicks, the Gene Keys, Tony Robbins, Joe Dispenza, your church program, anything that's happening in your world, because the universal law of you get what you need is out there. And so be open to that. I say, if you're open to, I'd go to genekeys.com and click on doing the free little profile. And they got a free little program that explains it, and start contemplating. Start contemplating from the beginning. Do the activation sequence over the next 4 months. Don't speed it up. Download the Gene Keys that you have. They cost like $2 each. One of the cool things about Gene Keys, it's not expensive at all. It's really, really inexpensive. So it's easy to do. And then think about and contemplate and see if you can, first of all, make friends with your shadows so that you can turn them into gifts and eventually see and reach your siddhis or a higher level. And then, just be open to growth and open to relationships and open to love, and be as loving as you can. Become conscious of your unconscious and love consciously. So that's my message for today, is to love consciously, but take steps to love consciously. And I think the Gene Keys Venus sequence is a beautiful process in order to do that. So until next week, we'll figure out what we're going to say next week, but we'll probably just continue along this path, because I want to be a catalyst for you to grow on your life of living rad and loving contagiously. Enjoy the week.